Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be painting a Monet masterpiece today, but it's actually not that hard, really. I've done this with my kids' class and they really enjoyed it. So I'm going to show you kind of step by step how to do it. So if you're a beginner, this is a great project for you. You definitely can do this one. So I've got my husband here today.
Hey, everybody.
He is manning chat, so we're doing a live show, and if you want to ask a question while I'm working, you can post that into the chat. You'll have to subscribe to my channel, which I hope you do already anyways, but if you are new to my channel, you can check that out after the show. I've got all kinds of playlists for beginners, and we're all about helping beginners learn to paint for the first time and have some confidence and take kind of some of the mystery and difficulties out of it by kind of sharing with you some of the things that I know. So been painting for almost 30 years now, and I really love teaching, so this has been good opportunity for that. So this was my example that I painted, and I did the green one. He did actually like 17 of these different versions at different lights and different weather conditions. So the one that I'm using was mostly greens and blues, but some of them are more pink than others. You can adjust it if you prefer one that's a little bit more pinks or purples, just add a few more of those colors. But there's reference images all over the internet, and because he's been dead for over 70 years, this is not under copyright law anymore in the US, so it's free to use. We can do this. We could even sell it if we wanted to as a reproduction, of course, not a forgery. Definitely not getting into the forgery business.
Exactly.
So, but this is just for fun. So, anyhow, my palette today is just mainly blues to green yellows. And then I've got some alizarin crimson here. I tried to kind of look up and see what color palettes he used and match them as closely as I could to the originals. So we've got alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, cad yellow medium, cad yellow light, sap green, which is a mixture color. So you can mix that if you don't have it. I think it's like ultramarine blue and some yellow will get you something close. This is phthalo green, which you can kind of mix something similar with phthalo blue and yellow, so if you don't have that. This is teal, which is also a mixable color. Phthalo turquoise, which is phthalo green and phthalo blue together. Phthalo blue, cobalt blue, and ultramarine blue. Now, any of these that you don't have, most of them you can kind of mix with some basic colors and get something close. So don't worry about that if you don't have all of these exact colors. I just like to put them out, these pre-mixed colors like the phthalo and teal and sap green, just because it makes it faster for me while I'm working on these live shows. So, but you definitely don't need them. You can mix them yourself. So the first thing we're going to do is I decided to do an 11 by 14 inch canvas instead of my 12 by 16 inch because it's a little bit narrower than the 12 by 16 inch canvases are. And his originals were actually pretty small, and some of them are like on square canvases or actually this way. But I'm going to go ahead and do it this way for YouTube purposes, but you feel free to turn it and do a little bit more down at the bottom if you want to. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to pop up the photo in the corner for you to see while we're working. That's the original that I worked off of. And we'll get started here. I'm going to spritz my canvas with a little bit of water just to make it absorb the paint a little bit better. And oh wait, you know what? Wrong, don't do that. I didn't sketch it yet. Dark.
Just testing you.
Just testing.
That's exactly. Right. That's right.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the bridge is at the top half. If you kind of just find that center mark, the bottom of that bridge is going to start about the halfway mark. So that'll be sort of that. And I'm going to go ahead and sort of do a rough sketch of, oh, you can't even see that, can you? It's a pretty shallow arch. There we go. And then the second one kind of comes up like that. So the top part is no higher than about the quarter of the way up. So if you take the half and then half it again. Right there will be kind of the top of the arch. And then you'll have another quarter at the top, if that makes sense. So this side has got a big weeping willow that comes down below the bridge. And then right up under the bridge, right about at the halfway mark as well, is the top of the pond. So we're going to do that, just a little narrow section there, and then widen it out like this. So the pond actually kind of mimics the shape of the curve of the bridge. So this is our pond area, and it gets cut off right here by some grasses. And then there's grasses along here. And then this whole area is weeping willow. There's bushes. There's a big dark area right in here that kind of comes up under the bridge. Some bushes. There's all kinds of bushes overlapping with this painting. And so, unless you use your light and dark values in strategic areas, it'll look flat. It'll look like one, big blob of green, since we are using mainly just greens. So we really have to use the dark and light values to help pop some of these bushes out towards ourselves, towards us. And that's what he was a master of. Monet was a master of working with light and darks. He could do a lot with just a few colors. Okay, so I think that's all we're going to sketch, really. It looks kind of like a mess right now, but it'll kind of come together as we work on it. So, and this first section will be what I would do with my kids class. We actually painted the whole thing with solid teal, and then we did a few things on top. So I'm going to do the water with kind of a light teal and sap green mixture. The water is actually fairly green with this one. And we're just going to start laying in some color. I've got a 1/2 inch flat here. And we're just going to keep our colors going in this horizontal motion. I'm going to grab some teal every now and then and pop that in. And we're really not being super careful. We're just kind of filling this in and using that side-to-side motion to create our water effect. And really trying to just kind of fill in all these little white areas mostly. I'm also going to grab some cobalt blue while I'm at it and add some areas of blue. And you notice I'm not cleaning out my brush, so I'm just kind of working quickly. I'm not really worried too much right now about the colors in the picture. This is all going to be mostly covered up. But with the kids class, I just left it at this point. Like we just added a few little water lilies after we got done with this water. So if you don't want to go into super detail and you're a first-time painter, you could just do this first part here with the water and call it good. Do we have any questions yet?
No questions, but we have Da Bears has joined us.
Hey, Nathan. That's awesome. Nathan's my son. He's flown the coop. He lives on his own now. Yep. Too much to mom's sadness. No, we're happy for him.
Yes.
We're very happy for him.
That's the goal. Have your kids move out
That's
and
true.
live on their own and be successful.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it makes mom sad. Dad, not so much sad.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
We've got good boys. They get, they finally get like trained up and they're decent adults and then they move out. You're like,
exactly.
You do all that work and then they ditch you once they're finally like kind of fun to be around.
They start doing their laundry.
Exactly.
And stuff, and then they move
They're
out.
completely self-sufficient and then, don't know. Yeah, I'm going to grab some yellow and start adding a little bit more of the brighter greens down here toward the bottom. Start working those in. So I just mixed up a little bit of the cad yellow light and the phthalo green. We're just going to work that in. These colors are still wet, so we're just kind of working the wet into the colors we've already put in. And just making sure that I'm keeping all of my brush strokes, this kind of side to side motion. If I get any that are too curved, I'm just going to go back in and kind of straighten those out a little bit. And we're just filling it in. This is going to be a pretty long painting today, I think. I did not time myself when I painted this yesterday when I did the example, but I'm pretty sure it was close to 2 hours. So, and that's not talking. So I'm going to really try to push through this and not talk too terribly much to slow myself down. So we may not take as many questions today as we might normally take, but I'll try to work them in when I can. Mark's under orders not to interrupt me if.
You got 101 likes. So
Ooh, what? Really?
103, yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to look for some of my areas of darkness, and if you can see in the picture up there, there's kind of an area right here that's pretty dark. I'm going to grab some burnt sienna. Sounds like a weird color to use on water, but he did use a little bit of this, and I'm just going to tap in a little bit of dark area here and up along some of this shoreline, just a little bit. And there's another area over here that's got it too. If you look really closely at the original paintings, there's all these colors going on. It's pretty interesting what he did. He was really a master observing color. That was what he was kind of all about. Is he'd go out at different times of day and just kind of see how the colors changed depending on the different light and all of that. It was pretty amazing and kind of a breakthrough thing that was very controversial at the time. They were all kind of considered rebels for doing what they did, all of these Impressionist guys, which, you know, they're so mainstream now you don't realize how controversial it was at the time when they were living. Although he was more accepted than most. He actually made a decent living at it. Okay, then I'm going to put a little bit down here. All right, so that's just giving us a little bit of depth to work with in the pond. Some of these little dark areas. And these are actually the areas where there is no water lily, and it's kind of reflecting these trees from above. Let's let that set. We'll start putting some of the trees in, and then we'll come back to it and add a few more little details for you, and that'll be the end of the kind of kids section portion of the show.
Again, the kids and husband section.
Right.
Then on to the experts.
Children and husbands.
Yes.
Okay, actually, I kind of need to make this a little bit wider this way. I'm going to bring this out a little bit on this side. We'll fix it. Okay, so this, I'm going to completely ignore my bridge now. So don't worry about going over it. We're going to completely cover it, and then we'll put it back in after we're done. We just wanted it so that we could place our pond correctly and our trees, kind of get them. So this time we're going to be doing vertical right here with the sap green. And I'll grab phthalo green every now and then and throw a little bit of that in. And maybe a little bit of the turquoise as well. The turquoise is going to give you nice dark areas, so use those in the shadows where you want some contrast. And I'm just going to keep kind of using all three of these to fill in, and it kind of starts sloping up here. I'm just really working it into the canvas, trying to cover up my white sections right now. We're not worried too much about. I'm going to grab a little bit of teal, add a little bit of that. We're not worried too much about what it looks like at this point, but kind of just setting in our dark and light values. That looks like a sheet of blackness, doesn't it? Let's grab some yellow and some phthalo green. That's yellow, light, cadmium yellow light. We'll put a little bit of that in there. Actually, I think like maybe we need to mix it with the sap. Sap green is just kind of an olivey green, so it's a little bit more muted. There we go. We'll put some of that in over here. And I think I want to bring my pond up just a little bit more. Okay.
What size brush is that? I wasn't paying attention.
This is about a 1/2 inch. This is a bright, so it's got a little bit shorter bristles. And it's a pretty stiff bristled brush. I mean, you could use a hog hair bristle brush, and that's probably what he used on his for this. So, you know, if you wanted to, this is one of the projects where a hog hair would come in handy. Let's add some yellow oxide to the sap green and see what happens. That's kind of an interesting color. It's even more kind of muted. We're going to use that up here in the corner. When I did with this with my kids class, I used craft paints, and so I just squirted out different kinds of green and had them go to town on it. I didn't really, you know, give them too much direction on where to put everything. I just kind of showed them sort of how to do the trees and let them sort of create their own little pond area. So it doesn't have to be exactly the way I'm doing it. I'm going to grab some of the turquoise, put that in there. There's like a dark area that kind of comes down like that. Okay. And then this front area's got some, let's use some of this yellow again here. Okay, and let's see, we've got kind of a lighter, I'll grab some white and whiten that up. Okay. Grab some more of the sap green and do that all the way down here. Really, this area is going to be all kind of bushes, so I might want to go a little bit darker because there'll be some light colors on top. Okay. And just along that water edge, I'm just kind of doing an uneven border. So, don't be too clean about it because there's a lot of overlapping going on. You don't need to keep it perfectly separated, if that makes sense. Okay, so keep doing this, and I'm going to grab my fan brush, mix a little bit of ultramarine blue with white, and I'm going to throw in some of that, maybe even a little bit darker. Maybe mix both white and dark, and throw in some ultramarine blue little sections in the trees, like the light's peeking through. And then this area up here has a bunch of ultramarine blue. I'm going to grab some of the turquoise too, make it nice and dark. So this area can be nice and dark. Really, you don't have to do this with the fan brush, but I already had the blue on here, so I'm just doing it with this color, with this brush. And then there's some up here. I'm just going to lay in some random blue and then we'll fill in around it. Okay. So far so good. It's really going to look ugly before it looks better, trust me. We'll get there. It looks like an ugly mess before before it looks like anything that even closely resembling what he had. Just kind of got to trust the process. It's all about the layers. You just kind of, when I'm breaking down a painting like this, the first thing I'm looking at is not the top layers, and I think that that's where a lot of people have issues when they're trying to paint something like this, is they go for the light colors first, and then there's no contrast, and like I said, it turns into one big, blob. And right now we're kind of doing the blob of dark colors, but once we get those light colors on top of this, that's when it'll really come to life. So if you're doing this with the kids class, they'll be, or with the you can add your lights in now while you're doing it, a little bit more than I am right now. I'm still kind of keeping it fairly dark. I'm trying to keep my hands clean so I don't mess up my canvas there. Okay, so looking pretty good, I think. I'm going to grab some of this blue. This is can't think of the cobalt blue, and that was a late addition to my color palette because I tried to do it with just ultramarine blue and no phthalo blue and no cobalt. I don't know why I can't say the name tonight. Cobalt blue and okay, felt like I needed that. And I couldn't get that richness of blue that I was looking for from the original painting, and then I realized that it was probably a cobalt blue that he used. So that's when I grabbed that. But I think he did use ultramarine too, possibly. So I went ahead and kept it. He just had more blues in there than I had originally thought he did. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over and grab a Deerfoot stippler. If you don't have one of these brushes, you could use a stiff bristled round, like a hog's hair round of some sort, or any kind of scruffy brush that's going to give you some stippling effect. So I'm going to grab my sap green. Really, my sap green was one of my main colors in this entire piece. And I'm going to start laying in some more of these bushes now and try to start creating some shapes. We're going to start pretty dark. Cover over this whole area down here is really dark. And probably even darker than that. We might even mix some burnt sienna into it, into this phthalo turquoise, and it makes almost a black brown color. Ooh, look how dark that is. That's how dark we want it. Okay. Like I said, don't worry about your bridge. It's gonna feel really weird covering it, but trust me. So don't take too long when you're drawing it. Just kind of, it's not gonna stay. Now you could always draw it on paper though if you wanted to, and then you could transfer it on, and that might be a good option if you're new to painting and you're not comfortable with drawing straight onto the canvas. You could always draw it on. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of use this to fill up, maybe do a little bit lighter version of it in some of these areas, but this whole area is going to get this green. Just kind of scrubbing it in to the canvas. Falling okay so far? Am I going too fast on the color changes?
For me, no, not at all. You're doing a great job.
You're a mess. Yes.
I know. We had one question asking, what are the pros and cons of a hog's hair brush versus a synthetic or other type? Is there any?
Well, the hog's hair bristles, just in general, are a little bit more stiff. They're a little bit more inflexible. So I don't like to use them for really detailed work myself. That's just a personal preference because I find that the more flexible synthetic brushes do a better job with finer details. But for something like this where, the details are smudgy anyways, hog's hair bristles are fine. They're natural hair, and they're most closely associated with oil painting. I think that they stand up to the oil chemicals and things pretty well. And I think they're just kind of a traditional brush that was used for years, so it's just a personal preference. I mean, I know acrylic painters that use hog's hair bristles for their paintings, and they do wonderful things. So it's just kind of what you're comfortable with, really. And I tell people, that let's go ahead and grab some more of this lighter sap green color with the white. And, I tell people just when they're getting new brushes that it's kind of like a relationship in a way. When I get a new brush, it takes me a while to break it in and kind of get comfortable with it. So, if you get a new brush and you really don't like it all that much, you might give it a little while and just paint with it for a little while, because the more you kind of get to know your brushes, it's sort of like a relationship. And let's add some yellow in here just to get a little bit different tone. I feel like that's too light. We'll grab a little bit more of the sap green. There we go. What was I saying? Oh, your brushes. Once you get to know your brush and you kind of have a comfortableness with it, you can really paint faster, and you can trust your brush. You know what it will and will not do, and so it just makes the whole painting experience a little bit less frustrating. So I'm always kind of hesitant when I get a new brush, because it's kind of like, are we going to get along or not? How's this going to work?
Well, I'm kind of concerned because you said that, you have to break it in like in a relationship. And I'm like, so I guess I was broken in years ago.
Years ago, yeah. That was long past. I just added some of the yellow oxide and yellow cad yellow light to my mixture here, and I'm just going to do some lighter, brighter yellow in here. It's going to cover some of my blue, but that's okay. And let's bring some of that down here. Okay, so now at this point, what I can do, if you're a beginner, is you can just add a few grasses, maybe a few of the lighter colors, and call it good. And then, do some of the pond, and we'll do the bridge. So I'm finding it hard to kind of break this down because I'm wanting to keep going on these layers. I'm trying to remember that I said I would do a beginner version. I may just have to keep on going. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of this just to soften that edge up a little bit. Add a little bit of that yellow over there. Okay, so we're already kind of seeing a little bit, just having that really, really dark back there. See how that kind of draws your eye in? I think we're good. Let me see. This is actually pond right here, so I think I'm going to bring this turquoise color, this teal, and sort of just go like that. That's there. And then this one here. And then I think up here along this water line, I'm going to grab a little bit of the burnt sienna and just tap that in. Ooh, that's pretty dark. It must have had some of that other color in there. I'm going to just soften that up. And just wet it down a little bit and tap back over it, and it'll soften it up. I'm going to use my finger. Okay, that's good. All pretty decent now. How long have we gone? We're only half an hour. Good. We might, I don't know. We might do 2 hours. It might work. I'm going to try my best to keep it as short as I can. All right, so let me clean out these darker colors out of my brush. And if you can't find this bigger 3/4 inch Deerfoot, you can use the smaller one. It really does the same thing. It just takes a little bit longer to use, fill in the area. So I was using the bigger one. But now that I'm doing the details, I think I'll switch to my smaller one and we'll start laying in some of the color in our water. And I think I'm going to use a combination of the fan brush and the stippler. I'll use the stippler mostly up in the trees and the fan brush down here in the water. And also my little number 2 round. So let's start adding light. Let's grab our cad yellow. We haven't used that yet. Cad yellow medium. And I'm going to keep spraying my palette here so that it doesn't dry out on me. Cad yellow medium, I'll cut it a little bit with the yellow oxide. That's a pretty color. And we'll touch just a teeny tiny bit of, let's see what happens when we grab a little cobalt blue. That'll make it a little bit more olivey. Okay. So let's start tapping in some of these areas here. There's a whole area of yellow that kind of comes out from the bottom of this. So I'm gonna, ooh, that's pretty bright. Let me grab some of the sap and tone that down a little bit. Okay, there we go. And I definitely don't want to do solid, so I'm gonna get some other colors on my brush here so that I'm not like doing a solid line of yellow. There we go. You know what? I think I want to use my round brush. This will take a little bit longer, but I think it'll look better. Okay, that's good. Do some yellow. We'll mix a little bit of phthalo green and the brighter yellow there, and we'll do a little bit of that color. And really it's going to be at this point a lot of this, a lot of adding a little bit of here and a little bit there. We're just kind of looking at the picture and trying to figure out where our bright areas are. Grab some of the yellow oxide and do some of that up there. Now the thing to notice is that if you look at the picture, the ones up here are teeny tiny dots. As you get down closer to the bottom, the dots get bigger. So that will naturally, and you can see that in my example one too, that all of the dots that I do up in here are very small. All these little white dots especially are very, very small. They get a little bit bigger as I come down, and then these ones down here are quite large. That gives you that illusion of depth just by doing that, because it's all pretty much the same color. So all we're doing is using the size of our dots to create depth. So just keep that in mind as we're working, that up here you're just going to use smaller brush strokes and just have some patience. You just kind of get yourself some tea or Coke or whatever is your favorite beverage, and might need wine. I don't know. This could be a wine painting, and just kind of, settle in for the long haul, because this is, you got to be kind of patient with this. Okay, this section here that we put in with the dark brown, remember, the burnt umber, there is going to be some vertical lines. Seems weird because usually we don't put vertical in with water, but it's the reflections off of what's happening on the shores. So we'll put some of this color up here start laying in some of these grasses. Do I need to zoom in a little bit, honey? Can they see okay? I'm going to grab some of the sap green
I can see.
and go even darker.
It's all right, but you might want to zoom in a little bit,
Zoom
I think.
in just a little
Yeah.
bit? Okay.
And a question came in, asked if the reference photo you have up there, is that the actual
Yes.
bridge?
Yes, that's the actual one that he
Okay.
did.
Oh, so it's his painting.
His painting,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, it's the one that I used for the reference for my this one here. So the colors look weird because of the, I don't know, but yeah, it's the same one. All right, I'm gonna put my fan brush away because I'm not gonna use it. All right, so this area here is the area that's right, kind of almost straight out from this bank here. So this side bank here, I'm going to grab some of the dark sap green. We'll put some leaves of sap green all along here to the edge. I'm going to use this dark color that I mixed too, because it's pretty dark right there. There we go. Okay. There's some down here. Use the same thing here. Do some, I'll put some in this tree here. All right, I'm going to be moving around quite a bit on this, and so I apologize in advance if this gets a little bit confusing, but hopefully you'll be able to follow along. So I am going to add this really dark color almost all the way across this whole section here. And I'm just dabbing these little vertical lines, leaving a little bit of my undercolor to show through. And then I'll grab a little bit of some of my other colors. So this was kind of that brighter yellow color there. And there's a little bit more up here and a little bit more up here. Let's put in some sideways. Remember, brush small little brush strokes. Grab some of the darker green and put some of that in the water right along this bank. And up in here, grab this darker, put that really dark right there. I'm going to make a little bit more of that. That was the turquoise and burnt sienna. Okay, we'll do it right there. There's some dark right here too. I missed. This whole area is pretty dark. I'm going to go ahead and add that in. I'm just kind of wiggling my brush. Oops, I'm way off. Sorry. I'm just kind of wiggling my brush to get some of this dark in here. We'll put some dark over here too. And really, it probably would be better to be using a hog's hair bristle for this, because I'm probably ruining this good brush by doing this. Smushing it around on this canvas. Not great for it. But I really feel like we need some really dark areas up in here before we put our light colors. Oops, thank you. Okay, we'll go back down to the water. All right, let's grab some ultramarine blue, and we'll start adding that into our water as well. Ooh, that's pretty. Small little brush strokes. What are you laughing at?
You can go ahead and zoom out a little bit too if you want to.
Why?
Well, somebody said that you can, ask if you could zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
And, the usual comments about the calmingness of your voice. And
Oh, yeah.
somebody said that it sounds like you're announcing a PGA.
They're on the 7th hole. He's got a long shot to make birdie.
Hey.
Sadly, we know a lot about golf. We've been to some professional golf.
And if this painting
Not sadly, actually.
it was fun.
It
But
was fun.
if this painting thing doesn't work out, you never know.
I could
Yeah,
go into that.
exactly.
Somebody suggested I did books on tape.
Yes.
Too. That would be a dream job for me because I love to read anyways. So that would be pretty fun. Okay, so just adding these blue. I added some of this blue that I had mixed with the white, the ultramarine blue. And I'm going to just do varying. The parts that are blue are the lily pads. So in the picture, that's kind of, there's a little bit of and I think it's the sunlight, when it's hitting, the sunlight hitting it is where they turn this brighter green, yellow color. And then when they're in shadow, they're in this blue range. So I think that's what we're seeing here. And then these ones that are vertical like this are the shadows. And I'm going to put some more of this green up in here. And like I said, it's going to look like a hot mess before it looks better. It's going to look really weird. Trust the process. Just keep on going. It'll eventually come together. It's just going to, your brain is going to start fighting you on this one. I guarantee it. Because it doesn't look like anything. You're going to want to do little circles for the lily pads. I guarantee, that's just, don't do it. Resist.
Just resist the temptation.
Resist the temptation.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab some of the burnt sienna, put some more of that down here. Under here, there's like a reflection under that. I know that picture is pretty small up there. I hope that's big enough for you to kind of see. The bottom area there where it's really, really dark is kind of cut off. So we're not really going to see it on our picture because that one is a little bit longer. Ours is wider than that one is. So we just have to make adjustments for that. And we'll add some of these dark areas to our light areas because the light has to have the dark to have some contrast. So grab some of this brighter phthalo green mixed to just cut a little bit with the turquoise teal color. I'm going to put a few little dabs up here on the thing and then put some up here. Start laying some of that in the water. Okay. Let's grab some of our yellow and put that in, mixing with all of that. Put some down here. And remember, these ones can be a little bit bigger, so I'm pressing down just a little bit more. Using the same brush, I'm just pressing down a little bit harder with my brush to get bigger brush strokes. Grab some of the dark. There's a whole section in here that's pretty dark down at the bottom. Just using that sap green and doing some vertical lines. It's a lot of lines. A lot of dabs and...
I'm getting low on here.
On my volume?
No, on the screen.
Oh,
Okay,
No.
that's good. Okay.
Good.
Oh, no, maybe it's my view.
okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. All right, so this whole area here is... Grab some of my yellows. I'm just making a mess of yellow here. We'll add a little bit of the sap green. And do... Okay, so this is all the blue here. I'm just kind of trying to see where in my picture. All right, so there's some more. This yellow comes down a little bit farther than I did it. And there's some this way, and then there's some more this way. Right in here. Okay. Oh yeah, this whole yellow area comes up underneath where this willow is. I'm going to use the yellow ochre back here. All right, we're getting somewhere. I think I'm going to switch to a 1/4 inch flat. And I think it'll go a little bit faster for me. I'm going to start putting in some of the blue areas. So I'll mix ultramarine blue, and I'll also use cobalt blue. And I'll also use a little bit of phthalo blue. The phthalo is going to be very sparing though, it's pretty bright. And I'm just going to quickly kind of move from one color to another. So we'll start over here and just start laying in some sideways brush strokes to indicate where some of these lily pads are going. Now that we've got these dark areas kind of laid out, it'll help. We can kind of work around them and on top of them. It'll set them back a little bit. Let's grab some of the brighter blue. Actually, I didn't mean to do that. That's not that far up. Sorry. Nice thing about this is that, you know, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of relaxing. It doesn't have to be exactly the way he did it. Doesn't have to be the way I do it. It's not going to be exactly the same because I'm not holding the brush the way he did, and I don't have the same amount of paint on my brush, you know, on the exact same place on the canvas that he is going to. I mean, and I guess if you were a master forger, you could probably spend, you know, hours dissecting it and getting it exactly perfectly placed, but we're not trying to do that. We're just kind of getting the feel, the same feeling. This is an inspired piece, not a reproduction. So don't get too stressed out about it being exactly like mine or exactly like what he did. So let's get some of this phthalo blue here. I feel like we can gray it down. Let's add a little bit of yellow oxide to it. There we go. That's a good color. We'll add that. Smaller little dabs in this area. As we get to the top here, we're barely dabbing now. Okay. Good. I'm going to avoid this area because this is my reflection. Then I'll do There's a few that kind of go over the top of the reflection here. And then this whole area is pretty blue down here. And pretty big brush strokes. Grab a little bit more of that ultramarine. Like there's a whole area there that I kind of missed. That's right up under here that's got these darkness right there. The sap green, we'll go ahead and kind of connect it. It goes kind of right up the middle here. There's like a green section that sort of goes straight up. And then there's a bunch of green that's down here. I think that down here you could kind of see some of the green from the lily pads, maybe more. Maybe, I don't know. I'm guessing. I haven't visited. I really want to. When we visited France, it was the wrong time of year to go to, is it Giverny? I'm not sure how you say it.
Yeah, that's correct. Giverny.
Giverny, where he planted. Oh, I read something interesting this morning too. I'm using this really, really dark color now, that burnt sienna and turquoise mix. That he actually violated the, like the neighborhood laws that we have, in our neighborhood or whatever, the county ordinances or whatever, when he planted these water lilies, because they were from like Africa and parts of the world where you weren't supposed to transplant from, I guess. So these were like a exotic variety that he wanted for his garden, and they told him to tear them out, but he didn't listen to him. Not funny. Like, go. He was a lawbreaker. The rebel. Okay, well, now I'm grabbing some of this turquoise. I'm going to add a little bit of the turquoise in some places here. So as you can see, it's just kind of a matter of sort of using the colors, in different areas and layering them. Layers. Lots of layers. Okay. I feel like this area needs some more light green, so we'll make a light green. Let's see what happens with this phthalo blue. It's a pretty color. Phthalo blue and yellow, cad yellow, medium there. Yeah, that's a good color. Okay, we'll just add a little bit of that in there. I feel like I did a better job of being more random about it when I was doing my example, so I'm getting a little too fussy with it today. Just, people are watching me today. I always am a little bit freer when I'm doing it at home by myself. A little bit tighter with it when I'm doing it for these live shows for some reason. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting closer to where we want to be here. Just going to break up the edges of some of this. Let's grab some of this brighter yellow here. Make it brighter green. I still have that blue on my brush, so I'm just kind of smooshing it down. Let's get some, there's like a brighter green there. Add some of that in some places. Put some up here too. right, let's see. So we need some dark right here and here. We've got more of this burnt. Let's grab some of this red. See what that does. This is our yellow alizarin crimson. Thank you. You didn't even tell me. I don't know who I was thinking there. I'm just going to tap that in.
I'll take credit for it, though.
Okay. I'm going to tap that in along the sides here. It's kind of the same. It mixed with my greens a little bit, so it's made sort of the similar color that the burnt sienna was. It's a little bit more on the red side, a little bit brighter. Let's put it in a couple areas here in the water. There we go. Yeah, this area needs to be darker right there. Okay. So we need some of our dark greens kind of worked into these areas here. It's like too much of a separation there. And same deal over here. Okay, we're getting there. Now we're still working in our dark areas, so we're it's not going to look quite right yet because we're still not quite ready to lay in our really, really bright areas in our whites. Once we do that, that'll really bring it together. So right now we're still kind of just getting all of this underlayer done. And then once we do our bright colors, it'll really make it pop. Okay. These areas are really pretty dark. Pretty solidly dark right there. Okay, any other questions yet, honey?
No, but
good.
There's a lengthy debate going on the different languages of frogs across the world.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did the frogs have different languages?
Apparently they are multilingual, depending on what country you're in. So
Interesting.
no, they're just joking.
Oh. Hey, I'm the most gullible. He knows, Mark's.
I'm telling you, I mean, Lady White Fang.
I am
and,
so gullible.
you
I
know,
fell for that. Okay, I'm going to use the side of my brush here and make some grasses. I'm not speaking to any of you anymore. Lay some of these dark areas here. Now, of course, this area here is not going to be finished until we get our bridge put on there. So, is this adding too much shine right there? This area is in shine today for some reason. It's probably those. Maybe, or it might be the one above me. I don't know. I might have to hold it up when I do the bridge on that side because it's shiny. Okay. Oh. Phew, are we tired yet?
No, I'm doing real good.
You're doing good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We're doing good. Let's get some of this cobalt blue color that I mixed up and it's got a little bit of the green still in my brush. So
Which brush are you using still?
1/4 inch flat.
1/4 inch flat.
use
Robert
a bright.
Simmons.
Yeah, you could use a bright instead if you wanted to.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that. But I wasn't sure if I could go there or not.
Duh.
So, yeah.
You're like, that
I mean,
was a given.
Yeah, everybody knew that.
I didn't even need to say that, did I? Sorry.
Just want to say
Well, a bright is smaller, is shorter.
Oh,
It would
okay.
be about half that length.
the bristles themselves.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Okay. just a matter of laying in all these different colors. Let's grab some brighter cobalt blue and see what that does. It's pretty. Grab some of this ultramarine blue mix. Okay, it needs brighter, darker. There we go. Okay, we're getting close. Just really just paying attention to my values right at this point, making sure I get these colors dark enough in the dark areas. So this still needs a little bit more darkness right here. Grab that turquoise color. It's got a few sections there where it's really, really dark. There we go. That's what we're talking about. We're almost black in some of these places, so just really need to have this contrast. This whole area is pretty long. See, I'm concentrating now. I'm getting quiet. Sorry.
Well,
I
that's
gotta
okay.
think here.
Go ahead and think, and I'll just say thanks to everybody who's been joining us so far today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Angela's channel. You can hit the thumbs up, join us in chat, and hope that you're enjoying this afternoon.
Yes.
And if you're in the future, well, we're still hoping that you're enjoying this too.
You're watching the recording?
Yes, watching the playback.
Yes. I know Saturdays are well, if we were in soccer season, if Spencer was still in soccer, we would not be doing this, that's for sure. We spent every Saturday playing soccer well, not us. We got to watch playing soccer being played.
Yeah, no, not us.
Not us. Please no.
No.
We watched it for years and years and years. We went straight from our oldest son to our youngest with soccer. As soon as our oldest son graduated, and our youngest son started playing soccer. So we didn't have a Saturday free during the fall for
a long
time. Probably a good 10 years, I would say.
So a question came in asking the color for your nails.
I should know that.
Uh-oh. I should know it too, since helped.
Yeah, he did help. He was a big help. Okay, I'm going back in with my green now. This is the sap green plus, I don't even know what I had in my brush. I think I had blue, maybe. Or, I don't know. I don't know what color this was. I'm sorry. I was thinking about soccer. So you could see what I did, hopefully. No idea what color this is. Sorry. It's kind of a medium green. And just dabbing that in. Okay, darker sap green here. Do some long. Okay. We're filling it in, it's getting there. Just a kind of a long process of just be patient with it. I'm going to grab some more of this burnt sienna over here and do some more of this dark burnt sienna. Maybe a little bit of dark along this bottom edge here. Okay, let me look at it and see how we're doing. Kind of hard to see when I'm painting because it's flat. So I think we're We're getting there. I'm going to clean up these edges a little bit where I've got these dark areas. Just kind of going along the edges of them and kind of softening up those lines so that there's not like a hard edge where they end. If that makes sense. Grab some teal. Here, we'll do that. All right, I think we're getting a little closer to where we want to be. Let's work on the trees up here. Let's let this all dry, and it'll change colors a little bit as it dries, so we'll be able to see kind of our lights and darks better when we do that. So we'll just start. Let's start on this side, and I'm going to use my fan brush again. And I'm going to use, we'll mix a little bit of these greens together with some white. I'm using phthalo and sap here, and some white. It's making this kind of soft sage green color. And let's just start up here and start pulling down, barely touching, and just tapping, pulling down some color. Let me move this, I can't see it. I'm trying to move it so that I can still see it on the camera, but the light's hitting it weird today for me. We'll do some down here. And actually, I think I'm just going to hold it like this and just tap. Maybe pull it a little bit right here, but just tap to get kind of these textured things happening. Okay, that's good. Let's grab some yellow. It's got a little bit of the sap green on one side, that's fine. Sort of mixed a little bit with what the color we just did. And we'll add a little bit of that too. I'm not too worried about the blue, so if you kind of need to go over some of it or decide you want to go over it, go actually right up next to it. It'll kind of set it back in there. Tap some of this down all the way down to the water line. So this is kind of the leading edge where maybe the sunlight's catching the willow tree here. Yeah, that's looking pretty good, I think. Starting to take shape there. This whole area stays pretty dark. And then there's another tree or something that kind of comes in right here. All right. Let's see, I'm going to bring that out just a little bit more. And I'll use this color over here. See if we can get some grasses. Maybe just a little bit. We'll probably use our small brush for this mostly, but we'll put a little bit of it in. Yeah, it's not wanting to work right there. Okay, I'm going to grab the small deerfoot and get this color again, the same yellow. It's the cad yellow light with a little bit of sap green. this one right in the middle here, right above our dark area, we're just going to start tapping in. Now, the key with the Deerfoot is to load it very thin and only tap it from the tip. So I'm not pressing down real hard, and I'm not going over and over and over and over again in the same spot. Because if I kept doing that, I would end up with a solid blob of color. And that's definitely not what you want. You want this light, airy kind of thing that happens with this brush. And you kind of defeat the purpose of using it if you keep working at one area so much that you end up with a solid color like that. I mean, if that happens, you can grab your darker color and kind of tap back in and soften it up. But I think that that's what happens to a lot of beginners when they're doing clouds or foliage or anything like that. They kind of, you kind of work an area to death, and it ends up being these solid colors instead of this light kind of soft foliage that you're wanting. So I'm grabbing this kind of more sage green here, and I'm going to add some of that in. Whoa, that's pretty bright. Might be too bright. And also you kind of want to change the angle that you're tapping from some, so that you don't, you can get a repeat patterns with these brushes. So if you kind of turn it from side to side a little bit as you work, you can avoid getting too much of that solid or repeat pattern thing happening. So I'm going to put a little bit up here, leaving some of these dark areas. So just kind of trying to define some of these shapes, and you can look at the original picture to kind of see where some of the light areas were. There's a really bright area right here. And then I'm just going to do different greens here and there. So this one's a little bit brighter. We'll do a little bit of it right here. This is kind of phthalo green plus white. Having some of these little different greens will help too. And then this whole area is pretty dark off to this side here, so we'll grab a little bit of that sap green. It'll just be a slight bit lighter than what we put previously, just to give it a little bit of depth. Grab some of that dark again. Okay, so we've got our dark, and then we've got our sort of medium values, and then we've got our light values. So you need all three. And then, you're going to need like the ultra bright areas too. Those are kind of the last little bit that you do that really make it even brighter. See, like that. And I'm just going to turn my brush so that I'm not getting these horseshoe shapes.
You're getting close to your corner there. So.
Okay, thanks. See, I'm leaving a little bit spaces, a little bit of gaps in between. Grab some of this phthalo green sap, sagey color. Do that right in here. Ooh, that's bright. Don't be afraid of going really, really bright. I think that that's another thing that that's a common problem when you're painting, is that it's kind of a tendency to not want to go too dark or too bright, and but that'll really keep your paintings from having depth if you if you keep everything the same value. So really, really go almost black and go almost white and everything in between. And then you'll get a really good depth. Grab some of this middle value color and just soften up some of these transitions. Trying to stay away from my really, really dark areas, but I might just have to go back in and darken those up again if I need to. Let's grab some yellow ochre, see what that does. That's a nice color. Gives it a little bit olive tone. Okay, I feel like there's a lot of repetition of shapes right there, so I'm just going to soften that up. I'm just going to use my brush to sort of scrub. And grab this dark turquoise color. I need to spray my palette. Let's add a little bit of this red color too. Let's do it right up in here. Ooh, that's pretty. And this area right here is pretty dark because you've got the grasses coming up over, so you want kind of a nice dark area there for it to contrast against. There. Okay. Let's put a little bit of this color over here. Just scrub it vertically. And then we'll grab the sage green and do some darker. I'm just using the tip of the brush here. Scraping some. And tapping the tip. All right. Grab some of this dark turquoise and we'll tap that back in some of these dark areas. There's just really dark sections here. Okay, whoop, getting too far down. Okay, so this area is way too light right here. So I'm gonna grab my sap green and tap back over it. All right, looking better. Let me grab my small round brush. And my cobalt blue with white. Mixture. And we'll put a little bit back in around our trees. I'm just dotting, just adding little dabs of color here and there. Maybe a little bit dark ultramarine blue. Have both on the brush at the same time. Get some in here. I don't know how much time do we have, so we've been 1 hour and a half. Almost.
Yeah, yeah.
About an hour and a half. Okay. I need to start on the bridge pretty soon here.
And a question came in asking if you don't have the Deerfoot brush, what was a good substitute?
Any kind of stiff bristled brush that will give you those kind of rough edges, you know, the textured edges. So there's brushes that are called foliage brushes, or, you know, a hog's hair bristle brush that's a round will work. Just adding some blue back in here. I feel like the color is kind of hard to see today for some reason.
Yeah.
The way the light's shining on it.
It looks good to me on mine.
It's on my monitor. It looks washed out. Okay, I'm going to grab some turquoise and mix it with my sap green there to make a nice dark green. And we'll add some really dark areas into our weeping willow here, and I'm just going to use dots and dashes. Kind of pull some, and I'm barely touching down so that it's catching the texture of the canvas. The more layers that we do, the better the texture gets, and so then we get these really cool things happening where we're dry brushing almost some things. He had a lot of dry brush stuff going on, where he had a lot of the texture of the canvas showing through in his original painting that I'm using. Grab a little bit of yellow ochre to desaturate the color a little bit. There we go. Just add that. And whoops. And I'm just gonna kind of scrub it in at the bottom of some of these bright areas here, just to set those back. This is where more random the better. Just kind of let your brush sort of wiggle around and create some interesting shapes. And we'll, anywhere that you see kind of an artificial edge, you can go in and kind of soften it up with this. And I feel like there's some of that going on up here, so I'm just gonna dab random little places. Grab some of my lighter colors and use my brush to sort of add like individual leaves in some places, just little dots. Okay. This is where you could get really fussy and just kind of keep on going forever and ever with this, but I think we're getting pretty close to where we want it. We've got a little bit of depth going on in there. Let me add a little bit more of the really bright highlights now with this brush. We'll just do that just right along this edge here. Maybe even a little bit brighter. There we go. teeny tiny little dots. If they get a little bit too bright, you can just wipe them down a little bit. And a little bit over here. And some up in these trees up here. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's do over here a little bit. There's some like little falling brush strokes there. A few in here that kind of just hit some of the highlights. Oops, too high, sorry. Okay. Okay, and I don't want to do any more too much over here because this bridge will be, I'm not going to do any of these grasses over here because the bridge is coming in on those. So just want to make sure that I have all of my places underneath covered so that, oh, that might be too bright. So that when I do my bridge, it has all these things going on behind it. I need more sap green. What are we going to do with our stick man today?
I don't know. I was just letting you go. I didn't want to break your rhythm there, your mojo.
Thank you.
So, but we're at 188 likes. We might get a double stick man.
Sweet.
So keep on hitting the thumbs up if you like this, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Love having you guys here with us.
All right, let's grab some of this really bright. There's some of that really low right here on these bushes in the far back. Okay. Let's do some grasses. Grab some of the yellow green. And these grasses here, right along the edge, are pretty bright yellow. Try to keep them pretty small and thin if you can. Twist your brush to a point. You could even switch to a liner brush if you need to. This is a number 2, or actually this is a number 4 round, which is, it's a Scotta Perla brush, so that it's a little bit smaller than my regular number 4 that I use in a lot of my other paintings. So there we go. Grab a little bit of yellow ochre or yellow oxide there and add some of that in. Now the key here is not to cover up all of your dark areas when you're doing this, which is pretty easy to do. So mix a little bit of the sap green with the yellow oxide. Just start adding these around the sides here. I'm going to add some of this really bright color right in here. What are you saying, hon?
We're at 204.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, we're cooking. I think it's looking good. You'll be amazed what this does once we get the highlights on it. The trees are looking pretty darn good, I think. Pretty close to the original, sort of, if you look up there. Might add a little bit more of the brighter yellows. I'm seeing some more brighter greens than what I've got going on, but we're getting there. It's just all these little layers. Lots and lots and lots of layers. But it's so worth it. The end result, I was really, really happy with the example that I did. And I'm even going a little bit more detailed, I think, than I did yesterday on my example today for you guys. So you can kind of stop at whatever point that you're happy with it. I say, stop. So whatever level of detail is making you happy. This is your Monet painting. I'm cleaning out my brushes here. And I'm going to grab our stick guy here and give myself a little break off of this for a second. I think we want to do a little lily pad for him, or do a pond of water or something down here. If you are new to my channel, you are probably wondering what this monstrosity of an artwork is. It is not my best work, I have to tell you. But
oh, what? That's an insult.
okay,
You had a good foundation to start with. That's for
did.
sure.
The mark started with the stick man. Okay, so we'll do our water lily pond right here, and we'll give him some green lily pads. Maybe some brighter color on him. There we go. And then every show we add a little bit more to our stickman guy. Mark created him when we were at a museum. There we go. Okay, he's got some lily pads going on there now. He's happy. He's got a whole scene there. So every time we do a painting, we add something that corresponds with the painting. So Tuesday night was the birch trees, and this was the farm.
Oh yes,
barn.
the barn and trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's getting a regular tableau going there. He's got the cloud from the drip trees and the willow trees from a few weeks ago.
You know,
All kinds of
imagine
stuff
in
going
about
on.
5,000 years, if that's the only remaining piece of art that survived.
Hey, this might be like the rock paintings.
Yeah, they'll be
like,
hanging up in a museum somewhere.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, God forbid. Nope. That's an original Angela Anderson. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm liking it. I think it's looking pretty good.
I mean, that looks great just as it is. I mean, you can
Yeah.
stop there and not put a bridge in.
That's true. You could. You could. Very
But
true.
we're going on because we're professionals.
That's right. We hope. We hope. All right. That's what we're telling everybody.
That's right. That's right.
I'm going to spray this down and grab my cad yellow. And let's mix some of this teal in here and see what that does. Yeah, that makes a good color. I've got my 1/4" angle brush again. Let's see how this does for making some of my grasses. Yeah, it's doing all right. So I need some grasses along in here. And I'm going to put some more color in these trees over here. Just a little bit. And then there's some grasses that kind of peek out right here. All right, let's see. No, that's fine. I drank too much tea before I started today. It's catching up to me. Now I'm like, okay, let's finish this painting fast.
Motivation.
This is the first It's the first time I've had that happen, so I guess it's a good note to self. Don't drink a whole pot of tea before you start a show.
2-hour show.
Yep. Yep, probably not the smartest choice I made this morning. Okay. Add some of this color, just tapping it in here. A couple places. All right, so got these grasses going here. These ones on this side here are kind of more of this brighter color. Actually, let's switch to my liner brush. I feel like it's gonna get a more natural looking grass for us. There we go. Now, don't worry too much about where the grasses are ending, because if we overlap them a little bit, they will sort of disappear at the end. So I'm starting up high and I'm going to work down toward the bottom here, and it will... Are they laughing at my pain here?
Well, no, they're saying go.
Go? Well,
Break.
I don't know what we would do though. Can you get in here and do... You should do a sketch for them while I'm in a break.
Yeah.
You should. If I go on a break to go to the bathroom, then you're going to have to do a sketch. That's the deal. You'll have to add something to Stickman.
Yeah, that's not going to happen today. I need to prepare. You know, you had all day yesterday to prepare for this. You can't
That's
just spring this
true.
on me. You know,
Mm.
I'm an artist. I can't just, draw a stick man.
You've got to be ready at all times. You never
man.
know when the muse is going to call.
I'll put the frogs playing in the background again, just as kind of a hold music.
Is that what you were doing earlier?
I did a little bit. Yeah, people like it. Am
That's
I hearing
awesome.
frogs?
It's like, what is that? That's great. I know. I had to warn him not to use copyrighted frog. I was like, I don't want to get my copyright violation off of some frog music. That would be horrible.
We don't want to be sued by the frog community.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Don't. Okay, so going down low, but I'm keeping this area pretty dark here, so don't want to do too much right there. And I'm going to add some of this color into my water. Now I see where I need my brighter areas. So this is all dried now. And we have all of our nice dark areas in here. So we've got all this lovely contrast going on once we get all of these light areas going. So now I'm really going to grab my brighter whites and start dotting in some bright. It's going to look really weird at first, but we'll make it work, and we'll add some other other colors around it to make it, settle in. So, but these ones down in the background here are going to be very, very small. So keep your brush strokes very tiny, just barely touching down. We'll get a few longer ones. Grab some more of this brighter yellow, green. Add some of that in. This whole area here is almost all bright green. Don't go over the top of all of your dark areas though. I'm going around them, if you notice. So if I've got a really, really dark area in here, I can do a dot over the top of it, but I don't want to do my little brushstroke things that I'm doing here too much over the top of those. So just keep that in mind. Kind of going, if I've got a dark yellow, I'm going to kind of set maybe on top of that, so it maybe looks like there's like a little shadow there or something. Just using that visual thing. Oh, it's looking good. Yep, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Let's do some vertical lines. Some of these are going this way, right here. Picking up the trees here. I'm going to actually add some of this brighter color into my trees right here. Now that I see it needs it. Even brighter right there. It's amazing how much the colors shift as they dry with acrylics. They really do change quite a bit. Okay. Get some of the bright white and do a little bit of bright white right in there. Yeah, I need to move fast because we still have that whole bridge to do. And the bridge was like, it took me a while. It was tricky. It had a lot of layers to it.
Well, I can dry that off if you need that so that you can take a break and maybe you're ready for the bridge.
No, it's fine. I don't need to dry it. It'll be dry enough. So just adding some highlights to my vertical kind of areas here, my highlighted areas. I'll grab some of that sap green color and make sort of a medium green. There we go. Now yours may not need all of, the same colors at this point as mine does, because, you're just going to look different naturally. So just do what feels right to you. When you're coming down to this last little bit here. Still feel like some of these areas are not dark enough. Grab some of this ultramarine blue and really add some of that in. That'll brighten it up. My paints are getting a little bit sticky, so they're fighting me a little bit. Okay, let's grab some of that bright white. This time this is almost solid white here, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more of that in. This is our little lily flowers, I think, probably. And let's pick up a little bit of pink and put some pink in too. So let's have both of those on the brush. We'll do white on this side and a little bit of soft pink on the other side. So when I make my dots, they'll have both colors. That's good. Oops, right there. And I'm trying to make sure that my shapes are really random. They're not like these perfect little round flower shapes. They're not even really flower shapes at all. They're just kind of these like dot things. So some of them are bigger than others. So just have fun with it and kind of dot away. This is where I really enjoy these paintings, because they start to really start making sense visually to you. Finally kind of go, oh, okay, I see what's happening now. Now as I get down closer to the bottom, I'm getting a little bit bigger with my dots. And there's like 3 big ones right here. They're kind of greenish. And we didn't put in a lot of our yellows, so we'll probably need to go back in and do these 3 right here. Then 1 down here. Add some. We having internet problems?